Hello everyone, this is Dr. Poyo. I would like to spend a couple minutes just making sure that you are familiar with your book critique assignment. The book critique assignment is paired up with your final technology project. So if you notice over here, the tab that says book critiques is something you'll want to go through and look at all that information, as well as your final technology project. They go hand in hand. The book critiques actually are pieces of your final technology project. So rather than having to do a project all in one shot, you will be doing weekly pieces of this and putting it all together by the end of your 7 weeks here with us. One of the things that I want to mention is that you will be reading 30 high quality children's books. Please make sure that these are books that you're not familiar with. The reason being is that the more you have experience with, the more you have to give to your students. In other words, reading 30 books that you've already read is going to do nothing to help your students. So please make sure that you go out and search some new children's books. They all need to be award winners. At least 60% of them must be Caldecott or Newbery Awards. These can be Caldecott Honor or Newbery Honor. That would be fine. It doesn't actually have to be the single winner for the year. Each submission will also consist of 5 award-winning texts and will be done by creating a video. Your video needs to be 4 to 6 minutes maximum. And I believe actually the rubric says 3.5 minutes to 6 minutes, but literally if you are less than 3.5 minutes, you will not receive points for that. And if you are over 6 minutes, you won't receive points for that as either. And you'll be sharing it in our Google Plus community. The books need to cover a variety of genres and subjects in order to give you a solid knowledge base to be used in your teaching. So each of these videos, you're going to feature one of the 5 books that you've read for the week. In that feature, you're going to create 2 different content area ideas of activities to use with your students. You're going to select a specific age group to use these activities with. You're going to select specific standards that your activity would align with. And then you need to create an artifact to act as a model for your students of one of those ideas that you share, of the 2 different content area ideas that you're sharing. The 4 C's, creating, collaborating, critical thinking, and communicating, are also key components of the book critique ideas that you're generating here. Once you create this video, you're going to, I would suggest publishing it on YouTube. If you don't already have a YouTube channel, I would create one. Make sure that it is public, not private, because if it's private, then we won't be able to look at your videos. Make sure that you upload your working link to both Blackboard as well as our Google Plus community. Now I'm going to look down here quickly and show you the checklist, the rubric that you'll be using to make sure that you include all of the information that's necessary. So in your checklist, you need to make sure that all of the basics are here. In other words, your name needs to be on that first slide of your video. You also need to list your text set. All of your genres and awards need to be listed. The genres need to be specific, and I'll mention something about that in just a minute. And then images of your text. So in other words, take little screenshots of the actual book. You might even want to include pictures inside your book. The more images you have, the more interesting your video is going to be. Also, please be sure that you include a rationale. Why are you using this one particular book as your feature text? What is it about it that strikes you personally, or that you would really love to share with your students? Also, be sure that your summaries for not only your feature text, but if you include any summaries for your additional text, which you will written in your final technology project, but make sure there's no plagiarism. And I believe I mentioned that in the other video as well. Your lesson ideas, they need to be 2 different content areas. You also need to have a specific grade level. You have to have standards. And I would write these in on the slide if I were you. That way you know for sure that your alignment is appropriate with whatever your idea is. The other thing is I want you to think about creating ideas of activities to use for your students to share new knowledge that they're gaining with a wider audience. In other words, think beyond the four walls of your classroom. We have the technology now where students can share what they're learning with other students or with other, people. The sky's the limit, really. Think that through. It could be that your students are sharing with another class in your school, which is totally fine. It could be that they're sharing, though, to the community, which would be fantastic. Also, make sure that your artifact is something that you have created yourself. In other words, if you're using a website, let's say you decide to use something like, scholastic.com, and there's some little game that you have found there that is appropriate to use with your text. That's fine, but that's not an artifact. That is something that can be used by your students, but you actually need to create something and include that, demonstrate it in your video. And if you look at the examples that I have, the models I have, you'll see what I'm talking about. Then finally, your file needs to be uploaded and it needs to be working. Remember that your final technology project will include all of these components listed right here. In your video, you only really need to include the interdisciplinary uses for your feature text, but ultimately I would go ahead and write that stuff down as you're reading your books so that you can include it in your final technology project, because that is a component that is necessary. All right, there's an example which I already showed you before, but this is really important. I've had students lose critical points in the past for not following directions in regard to the genres. All of your genres are listed right here, but notice that I have something like a genre like fiction or nonfiction, classic, novel, children's book. None of those are real genres. Those are not genres that are specific enough for this course. So please be sure that you include the specific traditional literature or modern fantasy or realistic fiction or biography, etc. This is a link that you can go to see a variety of contemporary technologies that you can use to create artifacts. All right, definitely check that out. Check this out, this Flipgrid, tips and tricks from my former students. So that's all that I want to say about the book critique assignment. If you have questions, please make sure that you ask. Do not wait until the day that it's due to start asking me questions about this, all right? Because chances are I might not see your email in time. So think ahead, prepare ahead, and have a lot of fun with this assignment. God bless you all.